Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Berry Robinson and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours to 7 days a week. To view, please tune in to Flint Comcast Cable, Channel 17, every Saturday at 6 p.m. and every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. In My Opinion Show is also seen on Comcast Cable Television, Channel 68, Detroit, Michigan, 7 days weekly. Please consult your community calendar. We have a wonderful show in store for our millions of viewers worldwide, but first of all, let me introduce my talented co-hosts. First, we have Mrs. Denise Smith-Allen.
Hi, Ron.
Hi, and welcome to the In My Opinion Show.
Thank you.
And we have the memorable and talented and educated Mr. Henry Hatter. Welcome to the In My Opinion Show.
Thank you, Ron. And I just want to say to Denise, I want to congratulate her on her son's promotion to vice president of a sporting good complex out west. So Denise, one of these days we want him on this show to show us how the rest of the world lives.
Appreciate that so much.
Vice president.
All right.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
I'll
That's
let
an
him
open
know.
date. And I also want to extend a heartfelt thanks to our millions of viewers out there in the internet land. Let's talk about the State Board of Education. State Board of Education is re-examining zero policies as it reflects on student behavior. Over 500 children were expelled from schools throughout the state for nonviolent behavior. It's about time that the state took another look at these rules, as they are too restrictive. Instances of talking back to school officials, cussing, or throwing gum on hall floors. To expel students for this kind of behavior is certainly counterproductive to our educational system. Sure, there needs to be rules in place, but those draconian, arbitrary rules are ridiculous. Has it become too easy to just expel students than to teach them? Henry, you're knowledgeable in this area. Explain to our millions of viewers what is okay and what is not okay.
Well, thank you, Ron. I'm going to ask Denise to chime in with me, because Denise is the recipient of part of the kids that come through our system. And they're expelled or for whatever reason. But first I want to say is that 90% of all of the kids that go to a public school system are good kids. Mm-hmm. And what we know and the perception that we have about kids, it usually comes from that 10% of the kids who are most out of order most of the time. And you can only be expelled for several reasons. Trivial things like chewing gum, that's old stuff. We only got thrown out when we were kids for chewing gum. Then we tried to hide it on our tongue and everyday stuff. But today they can chew it openly in some cases. But here are the reasons that kids get kicked out of school. And this is based on school board policy, state rules, rules that are common law rules, Supreme Court decisions, and Attorney General decisions as well. All of that is how policies are generated in the school district and that affect kids. But the most instance where kids get kicked out of school or expelled starts with fighting. The kids coming into contact with physically hitting each other, or badgering each other, or hitting teachers. Teachers should never be hit, no matter how bad they are, no matter how good they are, no matter how difficult they are to get along. You should never touch a teacher. That's what we try to do. Possessing a weapon to do harm to other people, that's an intolerable decision that's found in law. And the law says that you must expel a student with intent. There are 5 conditions under which a student may be excused. And one of those is that the student was on his way to hunting and forgot the weapon was in the trunk of the car or in his back pocket, a knife or something. Kids can be expelled for circumstances like that. There are 4 others. But then kids can be expelled for threats. They can be expelled for stealing. or destruction of public property, when they throw a match into a waste paper basket and it flames up and burns a curtain or a blind or something like that.
Mhm.
It scares the heck out of the school population. For repeated insubordination. Now, all of the other things, and kids do a lot of things that are just prohibited by rule books, but they get points taken off for that. But they don't get expelled right away. You have to do something in one of these categories. There may be others, but they've been researched, they've been studied. All school districts have these encounters. All students are expelled in probably all school districts throughout Michigan. We have 505 school districts in Michigan, and I don't know any of them that's exempt from this. And Denise, I'm going to, oh, by the way, kids, before you can expel a child, if you're the parent, the first thing, the line of protocol that you follow, you go to the teacher and try to get that resolved. This is before the expulsion, because they're going to send you letters of intent. And then, if that doesn't work for you, you go to the principal. If you don't like what the principal's done, then you go to the superintendent. And the superintendent will make a ruling on it, as they all do. The kid or you have a right of appeal at that point. So if you don't like what they've done, you take it to the Board of Education and air it out in the public. Okay? The second thing is I'm going to say, is that kids have rights under the law, and there are certain rights that you have to protect, you have to defend, and you can't trample on. It's the kid's right. And the third thing is you have due process. The board owes each student due process, an opportunity to defend himself. I hear the case against him or her brought against them. And the Board of Education acts as a jury. It listens to the arguments from the teacher's side, and it listens to the arguments from the parent side and the student side. And then it will judge what it believes to be the truth, or to be the facts. And then the kid is either gone, forgiven, or reestablished. That's it. That's the protocol.
Okay.
Denise, help me out here.
Well, and I don't know if I heard this or not, but I think there's also, threats. I think you mentioned threats, but threatening to do such things as like blowing up the school building. Okay, to send in a threat like that is such an act that there is a charge that can occur, and a person can not only be expelled from school, but they can be criminally charged too. So I think that's a point that needs to be addressed. But I think one of the things that we need to have the conversation about is what happens before the child leaves home. In terms of what are the expectations, because the school is set up and designed to educate. Okay, and they've had to come along with, from a historical perspective, with a lot of disciplinary protocol, because we're finding that more and more children are coming into school at an earlier age without the necessary tools, the inner controls to function in class. Okay, and again, we're talking about a small percentage. We're not talking about the masses of children that go to school, but there's approximately about 10% that have not had the necessary, say, food, for example. They may not have the clothing and the discipline to come to school. So they become an issue for that teacher, and that teacher ends up spending an inordinate amount of time trying to provide structure for that child, and it may in fact take away from the education of the other children. Okay, so that is a concern, and certainly if that child begins to act out inappropriately or whatever, then as Henry explained, these are the steps that will happen if that child creates those kind of problems. Okay, but certainly it's not, you know, every child is being kicked out the door. No, that's not.
Let me just take you through a couple cases where they've been contested.
Okay.
And in certain circumstances, they do look as though they do require some kind of judicial review from time to time. And but first, what do we do? The question that you should be asking me, well, Henry, if you know that kids are going through these processes and we have this difficulty, what are you doing to correct it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't live like this forever, right?
Exactly.
Well, one of the corrections is to throw them out. But we can't afford to throw our kids out. We get $7,200 per child for that child. So it is not a good thing to think about expelling a child.
Okay.
I don't mean that to be part of the protocol of right wrong or good bad, but I want to say for the school district, it just does not make sense to throw away $7,200. Remember, you throw 10 kids out, you got 72. Yeah, yeah. You got $70,000, $75,000 or so. So we and yet we have the same operating cost. If diminish your school population, you don't have the fund anymore. You're down 7,000. Dispel 10 of them, and then you're down, or 12 or 13, and you're down $100,000.
Yeah.
We can't afford losses like that.
Sure.
We try to keep kids in the school. We do everything. We bend over backwards. We find ways to consult and with the parents to get them to have some movement in the family so that they can help their kids through difficult times. Like Denise said, for whatever reason, they don't get breakfasts, they are not taught, they don't do homework, they are not prepared to go into the classroom. We try to work with the parents, and we try to find ways to compromise to make sure we're keeping these kids in school. There are other reasons that we keep kids in school. We're obligated to keep kids in school. The law obligates us. And my first responsibility is contrary to what is thought, to protect the citizens' interest in tax dollars. You know what it is? It's to improve student achievement and safety.
Sure.
And then the public is next. But that's our job.
Right.
So if you're kicking kids out and you're throwing them away, then you're reducing the reputation of the school district, and you're throwing money away. We can't afford to do that. So we work in every way capacity. We will bring in consultants to work with our kids. We will establish, we have a program now that's called Find a Way. If you have difficult kids in classrooms, you set aside the time to walk them through if they're having problems with math or science or anything else, or personal problems. We will walk them through processes so that we can kind of help them find their way back. And so I don't want you to feel as though the schools are not trying to do this, but it takes good teachers to do that, dedicated teachers, teachers who want to see kids achieve. And all school districts don't have good teachers who will dedicate themselves to even bad kids. I mean, and I don't want to say bad kids, but kids who are troubled.
Sure.
Those are the difference between a successful student and a poor performing student is a teacher. Don't believe that, do you?
Well, in part, I believe, but there, there's circumstances that could contribute to that. You know what I mean? Family life. I mean, nutrition.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and things of that nature.
But Ron, you can't tell me that you lived like a king when you were a child. That you got 3 meals a day, and you were. Maybe you did, but a lot of you probably lived on a hill. We didn't. We lived on a water.
My last name is not Hatter. Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, but once the teacher encumbers that child
We lived on
Uh,
welfare.
Uh,
You know what I mean?
once
Yeah,
the teacher encumbers a child, the
Powdered
teacher
milk
can
and
make
eggs, pinto beans.
Yeah, but the teacher makes the best impression that you can
Mhm.
possibly have. And despite of all these other things, the circumstances going on in the child's life, the teacher is very important. We try to attract teachers who will make a difference in the lives of our students. And here's another thing. When we have new kids come into our district, one of the things that we do, and I've gone back, I'm a 22-year veteran of the school district, and I asked the teacher and the superintendent to make sure that we have set up some kind of engagement with those students who are behind. So when they come into our school district, that we catch them up so that they're not ridiculed by the traditional student in that school district. If you can't read or write, kids can sometimes be horrible.
Oh,
They
man,
can be,
yeah.
So you want to make sure you bring those kids up. Now those are the things that we try to do to mitigate circumstances where kids find themselves in trouble. But there's that 10% out there that will say, well, I brought my gun to school because I thought I was going to get attacked.
Yeah,
And,
but that may be
Well,
that may be true
yeah.
too. But how do
We
we
can't
salvage that 10%? Okay, because that 10% still represents $7,200 a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's just take
Okay.
the money thing away from them. But those are still human beings, all
I know,
right?
yeah.
Okay. How do we salvage that 10%? And how do we keep these teachers motivated?
I
You know
think
what I
it
mean?
goes. I think it goes back though before the child comes into the school system.
Okay.
That there's an orientation that should take place, and a lot of school districts do take
Mhm.
place. Whereas the parent, guardian, or whoever is engaged, bringing the child into the school to learn about expectations, to learn about school code of conduct,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and those kinds of things. Okay, so if the person who is responsible for that child understands it, then they're working in partnership with the school system. But the teachers cannot be expected to do it by themselves.
No, exactly.
You know,
I
they
understand
can't be
that.
expected to do that. And so I think that that's one of the things. So if the child has gotten to a point where they're incorrigible and they're not following direction, and they've gone through all the steps to try to help the child and whatnot, so there's an not necessarily an expulsion, but they are suspended for a period of time. Okay, so they're in transition, they're out of school. My opinion is that there should be another place for them to go. They should not be able to sit at home, because that sets the stage for the child to say, okay,
Yeah.
I'm at home, I'm watching TV, I'm doing whatever, so I feel okay, so now I'm going to come back to school, I'll be disruptive or whatever it takes so I can go back home, okay? So we should have a system in place, if it's not already there, to engage those children in some alternative
Sure.
education, okay? Because of their not being able to function in the classroom setting appropriately.
Now, also, I want to say, now let's go back to zero tolerance. I only mentioned one thing that the school district, well, maybe two. Guns. Zero tolerance. You got to
Sure,
be
it's
expelled
understandable.
180 days.
Mhm.
That's came out as the State Board of Education and supported by the Attorney General and everybody else. That means that the school district, despite of its local control powers, cannot overrule state law. So you must mandatorily get rid of that kid for 180 days. And then the kid, in order to come back, must petition the school district after the school district has established certain protocol that student and parents must follow during that expulsion year.
Okay, that's okay. Let's use this one school, right?
Yeah.
The kid brings a gun to school, all right? He's expelled. He or she's expelled. That 180 days, all right?
Okay.
Can they go to another? Can they go to another district
Not
in
if
a
they're
row?
expelled. But we can get I shouldn't tell them secrets. But
We got millions of viewers that want to know.
okay, but what happens is, depending on the circumstance, remember I said that there were 4 key elements, 5 key elements, as to whether determination can be made to expel the child. We may then order the student to go to alternative ed. Now that's another. Alternative ed is a school system within the school system that's operated by the regular school district, in which kids from several regional school districts may attend with the same problem.
Okay.
So that we can try to salvage these kids. So, but then strict protocol. You may not visit the high school. You may not have dates in the high school. You may attend no games. You may concerts. You may not be in the presence of the school campus. The only place that you can be is alternative ed, and then as soon as the class is over, you get off the property.
Okay.
Now, that's how we've tried to salvage these 10% of the kids. But still, like Denise said, parents can help out. And in some cases, these kids are beyond help because they formulated ideas where they become hardcore. But there are some good kids, too. You need to be able to do whatever you can. And we really try. We've been over backwards to try to get these kids on the right line. And I'd say that out of alternative ed, we probably graduate 40% of our kids. So we're striving to become better at that.
Okay.
And but as we look ahead, we still need to come back and visit these because demographics are changing.
Sure.
And so you're seeing a lot of mixing and a lot of rearrangement of students and stuff like that, which is likely to cause problems in other communities, like with grades and stuff like that.
Okay.
You see that coming, right? And so there's likely to be some discussion on that, and some kids who may act out when they are threatened by kids who do well in school, and when they're invaded by other kids. You've seen this in Grand Blanc, you've seen it in Davison, you've seen it in Flushing, you've seen it in Goodrich, but you have not seen it in Clio yet.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. We're going to change gears here. Attorney General Eric Holder found in contempt of Congress. In a dramatic showdown between the branches of government, the Republican-led House voted along party lines to hold Attorney General Eric Holder in contempt of Congress. This is the first time in history an Attorney General has been held in contempt. As the vote proceeded, droves of Democratic lawmakers protested by walking out of the House chambers. They poured out onto the Capitol building steps, where Representative Jim Claiborne expressed his disgust. The Democratic leader in the House, Nancy Pelosi, was among them. Now, the criminal contempt charge is referred to the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia. In other words, Holder's own Justice Department, which will decide how to proceed. President Obama has vowed to stop this witch hunt. Just in from the NAACP, taking a stand for what is right sometimes comes with grave consequences. Since taking office as United States Attorney General in 2009, Eric Holder has successfully restored the integrity of the U.S. Department of Justice. He has revitalized the Civil Rights Division, fought governors seeking to block millions of Americans from voting, and worked to advance and protect the promise of Americans for all. Sadly, extreme elements within the U.S. House are threatening to issue a vote on a contempt of Congress citation against Attorney General Holder. They say he has not been forthcoming with information about the botched Fast and Furious illegal arms trafficking program. The NAACP supports accountability and transparency at every level. However, this crusade in Congress reeks of partisan politics. All signs indicate the AG is complying with Congress on the Fast and Furious program. He has supplied Congress with thousands of pages of documents about the program and testified on the issue 8 times in the past 18 months. Threatening to hold a sitting U.S. Attorney General in contempt of Congress has serious consequences. In addition to being a criminal conviction, the citation carries up to 12 months in prison. These unwarranted attacks on the Attorney General are nothing more than an attempt to distract and prevent him from continuing to enforce the nation's civil rights and voting laws. The extremists in Congress threatening to file a contempt of Congress citation are the same members who led the movement to pass the legislation that would prohibit the U.S. Department of Justice from going to court to protect our right to vote. Stop state-sponsored racial profiling by law enforcement. Defend gains made in comprehensive health care coverage, or enforce an EEOC directive to help ex-offenders gain employment. This is dangerous, destructive, and distractive political ploy that must end now. Whew. This is terrible. This man cannot be held in contempt. Unfortunately, we will revisit this in the future. But at this time, we must bring another great segment of the In My Opinion show to a close. First, I want to thank my excellent technical staff and my superb co-hosts, Ms. Denise Smith-Allen and Mr. Henry Hatter. And you, the viewers, until next time, this is Ronald Bayer Robinson for the In My Opinion show saying, stay focused.